retail inflation is down. India's retail inflation numbers have eased to about 3.3% in March from a 7-month low of 3.6% in February, according to data released on Tuesday by the government. Now, this figure, that is the Consumer Price Index or CPI-based inflation figure, is within the Reserve Bank's medium-term target of 4% and well inside the 2 to 6% tolerance band. It's the lowest year-on-year inflation after August 2019, according to the Ministry of Statistics and Program Implementation. India's wholesale price index-based inflation eased to about 2% in March, down from about 2.38% in February. According to data released by the Ministry of Commerce and Industry, the decline was driven by drop in prices of food and fuel and power categories, even as prices of manufactured goods went up. Retail inflation is overall expected to ease in the first half of the year and could rise slightly towards the end of the fiscal year, reaching about 4.4% in Q4. I reached out to ICRA chief economist Aditi Nair and I began by asking her about the latest inflation numbers, the 5-year low, and the overall context of the macro picture, which seemed quite good if you looked at all the numbers together, and whether she was reading it the same way, and also equally how she was seeing the interest rate situation ahead.
See, it's certainly good news. I don't think I'm reading it in a negative way at all. Will it last? Certainly, the next few months, we feel that the inflation readings are going to be very benign. What are my concerns for the CPI inflation trajectory? One, today we got a monsoon forecast which is expected to be above normal this year. And above normal brings with it a slight risk that there could be episodes of very heavy rainfall. And that is something that isn't good for perishables. Backtracking, as the temperatures now start rising over most of India over the next month, again, that's a situation in which perishable prices could actually rise very rapidly. So we need to really map out this trajectory because that'll have a bearing on how things play out. And overall, the experience of the last 5 odd years has been that we end up with some sort of a vegetable price shock every year from one of the three key ingredients in the Indian palate, which is potato, onion, or tomato. So again, we need to see how that's going to play out. Are we going to be in for another shock like that or not? So this is some of the food inflation related potential pitfalls which would be there over the course of the year. Even though it is food inflation that has come in so much lower than expected and brought the headline inflation down to 3.3% in this month. Now, globally, of course, we're in fairly uncharted territory. Tariffs, counter tariffs, implications for supply, demand, and overall disruption to supply chains could end up leading to prices of some commodities dipping, prices of some finished products increasing. We don't know how this is going to play out, especially disruptions to things like the semiconductor supply chains and wherever that's an input into finished products. So I think globally it could go both ways in terms of how we see inflation readings and how that affects India.
Why did you refer to semiconductors specifically?
See, in case you are in a situation where China is going to look at specific items which either they export out of China or which they are importing from the US, which are American made, then there could be possibilities of a disruption which is much more widespread. Not only to items going into the US, but into entire supply chains out of China and to the rest of the world. So just going back to the COVID scenario where we had a shortage of semiconductors specifically. You remember how disruptive that was, right? So today we've seen that China is halting the receipt of Boeing planes. But they may also look at, where their input into the supply chains is also going to be disrupted. I mean, it's completely uncharted territory right now.
You're right. I mean, it's tough to forecast something that we have zero ability to predict or project. But if you were to look at the things that we know, one is, of course, inflation that we've just spoken about, oil prices, which are definitely trending lower. The IEA and the OPEC have come out with lower projections for the year ahead in terms of demand, and supply is likely to be higher. So oil prices are likely to be lower. So if you were to look at some of these other factors on the macro front, how are things looking?
See, overall, my sense is that domestically we have quite a lot of buffers on the growth side. And I think we're kind of very well placed. Starting off, of course, with the fact that we had the income tax relief, which the budget had announced. So you had a supportive fiscal policy going into a global kind of crisis like this. Monetary easing, already we've seen 50 basis points. That's how much we had predicted for this cycle at the beginning of the year. And now I'm saying there'll be 50 basis points more, at least. So the monetary easing is going to be much sharper than what we had initially thought. Partly because inflation has come in much lower than we expected. And clearly, we've seen that the RBI is trying to, the APC is pivoting to a more growth supportive stance, which is enabled by the fact that CPI inflation has also come down. So, there again, it's something that is going to help things like buffering private consumption. And also, we've got a double digit growth in capex that the government of India had penciled in. When we look at the state government data, my sense is that the FY25 RE for capex will be undershot by a very large margin. And therefore, the headroom for potential growth in capex in the FY26 budget is actually going to turn out to be quite high. Now, execution will be key. How quickly does the capex take off both for the center and the states? But again, this is something where we find that fiscal policy can play a very supportive role for our domestic growth impulses right now. The main issue, of course, is the uncertainty globally, what that means for merchandise exports, the knock on impact on exports, merchandise exports and services exports, and the impact on overall sentiment. Private capex, certainly for those industries that have either a large export component or where imports can come in very quickly and be competitive. We don't expect that private capex is going to really come in very quickly in industries such as that.
Even without the tariff challenges, we've obviously been seeing a slowing economy or an economy under pressure in the previous couple of quarters. So, any signs that you're seeing that things are changing?
So it's an interesting kind of trajectory. GDP growth had slowed over Q1 and Q2, revived in Q3, and we are expecting it to improve further in Q4 of FY25. Although we suspect that the final growth number is going to be much lower than what was implicit in the NSO's forecasts for that quarter. Now, a lot of interesting things that are yet to kind of play out. Our hunch was that we were going to see a lot of front loading of exports, and today's March trade data has completely belied that. There is no front loading of exports that's visible in the March data. That could still happen in the April data. We don't know. So there are going to be some sort of temporary mismatches in terms of, upfronting of some shipments, etc. But I think overall uncertainty is going to be the key, and the disruption that I was talking about earlier. I think these are going to be the main themes for FY26. We had started off with a forecast of a 6.5% growth in FY26. We brought it down to 6.2% after the reciprocal tariffs were announced. And despite the 90-day sort of pause, we are actually sticking to 6.2% because of the uncertainty and the potential disruption.
Right. Aditi, thank you so much for joining me.